My name is Kevin, coming to you live and direct on my new channel. This is Kev J, or I guess, yeah, probably Kevin J, Kev J Reacts. I'm still working on a name, but it will be solidified by the time you're seeing this. I'll coming through on a daily basis to give y'all reaction videos. I'm going to think about some other ideas as well, probably filling some vlogs, but honestly, I just want to be a page for the people. So if you guys can just comment down as we, go along this journey, tell me what you guys want me to react to or any video ideas, and I'll do my best to definitely execute for you guys. So the first video I want to do for my channel is a reaction to it's a hip hop lawyer that's breaking down Casanova's case. I know very little about it. I know that it's an indictment for, I believe, a RICO case. I did see Academics video that kind of broke it down a little bit more, but I do want to see if a lawyer can kind of give us a little bit more information. So let's get right into it. Yeah.
Peace, well, it's Timbo from Info Minds. Now, we got a special episode for you guys today. We're going to try to educate the people a little bit today. So we have someone going to be able to break down a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the past couple weeks in the hip-hop industry, in the entertainment world. Now, Mr. Hill, can you introduce yourself to the people and give us a little background about yourself?
My name is Hilton Napoleon. I'm an attorney in Miami, Florida. I've been practicing for 15 years. I specialize in criminal law and civil rights violations, both in federal and state court.
Now, on December 1st, the FBI's New York office tweeted a picture of Casanova, whose legal name is Coswell Sr. Now, Casanova was among 18 alleged members of the untouchable Guerrilla Stone Nation gang who are indicted on a range of criminal charges. Now, 2 days after the FBI's tweet, Casanova surrendered to law enforcement. Can you tell us, what is a RICO charge?
A RICO charge is where the federal government usually uses kind of like a cheat code to prosecute people who they believed are involved in organized crime. It's kind of like a catch-all, so to speak, to make it easier for the federal government to prosecute people who they might not necessarily catch in the act of committing a crime, but they believe that a person was involved in an organization that was involved in crimes. I mean, for long story short, it's what they usually charge to catch narcotics traffickers or mob bosses and things like that, or any other type of criminal organization.
You know, it's crazy. I don't think I ever knew exactly what a RICO was. I knew it was a racketeering case. A racketeer case. I remember from like obviously 6ix9ine's case. But I do remember the first time I heard Rico was probably that Meek Mill and Drake song, which was actually fire, but obviously got mixed up and all that stuff. Let's not get into that. But to see that, like, pretty much anytime I hear a Rico case nowadays, it's always affiliated with like gangs, and it's usually the Bloods and the Crips and people. And it seems like the government is trying to take down, any set from that Blood gang or that Crip gang. You can even say with Bobby Shmurda and them, Free the Nines, of course, and Walk on Home Rowdy. But it seems like every time when they see something like becoming a big movement, and I don't even think that this gorilla thing was huge. I mean, at least for me, I'm from Philly, and I'm from here, so I don't know how big it is in New York, but it could have been. But from what I know Casanova was a big artist, and he was getting bigger too because he was around. He was already out before Pop Smoke, but he was around that whole drill scene, and he's actually putting out some good music. I mean, the Soul Brooklyn and the joint he just put out with Ugly Guy was pretty fire too. But it's just crazy that they just pretty much, like they just said, they use the case. If they can't catch you in the act of the crime, we're gonna just put you in the whole totality of that whole group or that whole gang, and then that way we're able to indict you off of that. And then it looks like they have a couple of things that they were trying to indict him with on top of that. Now I did see the video, like I said, with Academics when he turned himself in, and he said he was innocent. So I believe it's also still, innocent to proven guilty. But obviously we know how that goes. But let's get back into the video.
Can you tell us what had they charged Cass with?
Casanova was basically charged with possession of a firearm and furtherance of drug trafficking, and he was also charged with drug trafficking. Simple possession.
Bro, not to stop it again, but a firearm in New York, bro, badge on. It's like I don't even know. I had to look into it. I always want to know like why the gun laws are so crazy in New York. But anytime you're caught with a gun in New York, it's like you're donezo. Like it's crazy. Like, remember Lil Wayne went away, and I mean, Lil Wayne's super rich. He had to get crazy lawyers to try to get his time down to like, I think it was a year, maybe less, like 6 months. It had to be like 6 months, I think. But Lil TJ just got caught with the gun too. I mean, you get caught with a gun, bro. It's a bad joint in New York. It's like just get a security guard. If you got money, get a security guard. Let them carry the gun. You know, what off-duty cop or a retired cop, bro.
Firearm in furtherance of drug trafficking carries a minimum mandatory penalty of 5 years in prison. Even more importantly, that 5 years that he would have to serve is run consecutive to the underlying RICO charge. So what it basically means is, on top of whatever he gets on the RICO, he would also have to serve an additional 5 years after that if he were to go to trial and be found guilty by a jury.
Do you know if these alleged crimes that Cass is being charged with were committed recently, or do they date back for many years?
Now, I don't know if Bobby was caught with a RICO case, but I know that he was caught with a firearm in his studio. At least, even if it wasn't his, because we don't know if it was his. It was it was in their, it was in the studio with them. So they all pretty much got hit with that. So yeah, 2014, Bobby went in. It's 2021. So, and Brody just got out, and that's only because Bobby took more time. And more kudos to that man. Like that's crazy. Like most people not doing that, John, bro. Nobody's, you know what I mean? Like people would not take more time and let your homie get out a little bit sooner than he would, because he would have got way, way, way after Bobby. So yeah, it had to be 5 years. That's crazy. Firearm
I
5
had a
years.
chance to look at the indictment, and it appears that at least some of the crimes that some of the people involved in the RICO were committed back in 2010, and it spanned several years. As far as his particular charges, it's hard to tell because they just gave a date range. I know that one of the most recent homicides that they're charging one of the individuals involved in conspiracy happened in 2020.
Worst case scenario, how much time could Cass potentially receive?
The maximum penalty for a conspiracy RICO charge is 20 years in prison. The likely penalty, to be honest with you, it's hard to say that right now.
That's crazy, bro.
Now, there are 17 other individuals named on the indictment. Are they all facing the same charges?
All of the individuals in the indictment are charged with RICO conspiracy, which means that they're charged with an offense that could carry up to 20 years in prison. However, some individuals involved in the conspiracy are charged with additional counts of homicide, additional counts of drug trafficking, additional counts of armed robbery. So no, everybody's not facing the exact charges except for the RICO.
Now, from the little bit of research that you were able to do you know if any of the defendants on the indictment is being accused of being the leader of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation?
Generally speaking, the people who are higher up on the indictment are the ones that the feds believe are higher up in the organization. But what I mean specifically is that the indictment is numbered based on each defendant. So for example, it'll be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 18 in this particular case. People who are higher up in the organization end up closer to the top of the indictment as opposed to the bottom of the indictment.
But because Casanova is the famous one, he's gonna be the face of this whole thing. He's gonna be seen as the leader, bro.
Now, in your experience, do you think that the federal government will offer the 18 defendants a plea deal? And can you explain what a plea deal is?
In federal court, there's something more akin to what we call charge bargaining. So in federal court, the prosecutor usually doesn't offer a person 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or anything remotely close to that. They'll offer a person to plead to a particular charge, and in exchange to pleading to that particular charge, they will drop all the other charges against them, and then they are later sentenced by what the judge determines what's appropriate. In Cass's case, he's charged with RICO conspiracy, and he's also charged with possession of a firearm and furtherance of a drug trafficking offense. The RICO conspiracy is a crime in and of itself, and possession of a firearm and furtherance of a drug trafficking offense is a crime in and of itself. So what happens sometimes is that the government will offer him to plead guilty to the RICO conspiracy case, and in exchange for pleading guilty, they will drop the possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking offense, because the possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking offense carries a 5-year minimum mandatory penalty in and of itself.
Mm.
Could a plea deal involve cooperation and assisting them in other cases? Because I read plea bargaining doesn't always have to include cooperation, though it often does in the federal system.
Generally speaking, what a prosecutor will tell you is that there are two types of people who are in federal custody: those who cooperated with the government and those who wish they cooperated with the government. So in a lot of federal cases, a lot of people try to cooperate with the government. So yes, many times a plea deal will involve cooperation.
If someone does cooperate, is there any way for the public to find out, or can they have their deal sealed?
It depends. If the government needs the cooperating witness to prove the crime against a particular defendant at trial, and they have to call that person to the stand, then yes, they would have to disclose who the cooperating witness is. However, if the government can establish the crime against the defendant without disclosing the cooperating witness, then sometimes they won't. It's a case-by-case basis.
If the defendant refuses a deal, are they opting to go to trial?
In a lot of cases, if a person refuses a plea deal from the government, then that means that they're going to go to trial. However, a defendant can plead guilty straight up to the court and just ask the court to sentence them without a plea deal from the prosecutor, which means that they're going to plead guilty to all the charges and then just let the judge sentence them. That usually only happens when a person has one charge against them in the entire indictment.
What is the risk and penalty of going to trial? And what are the pros and cons involved?
This is the unfortunate situation about our criminal justice system. And even though the judges are not supposed to do this, when a person goes to trial, many times the judge will sentence them higher than what they would have if they would have taken a plea deal.
Now,
It's not
that's crazy, bro. So if you go to try to fight your case, they're going to charge you for even more. Like they're going to no, actually, what he said is they could possibly give you a heavier sentence just because you took them to the trial process. Wow.
to be like that, but it is like that. As far as the pros are concerned of going to trial, obviously, if you win, you walk away as opposed to having a criminal history on your record.
How often do defendants go to trial and beat the case? What's the success rate?
Most cases in federal court do not go to trial. As Jadakiss once famously said, when the feds come and get you, that's that. Before they even arrest you, they have a mountain of evidence against you. They will investigate an organization for years, put them up on a chair, let them hang themselves, and then kick the chair from underneath them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later. So most criminal cases in federal court do not go to trial because federal government, before they even do that, they will have you on camera, they will have recorded telephone calls, they will have confidential informants testifying against you, and you look at that mountain of evidence and most people just get scared.
I heard that and I don't know if this is factual, I could definitely look it up, that the success rate for the feds, bro, is I want to say 98%. The only people I know that beat the feds is Murder Inc., Irv Gotti, Chris Gotti. And I was younger when that happened. 2008, I was in middle school or maybe elementary. They won that case, and Irv Gotti even says he spent so much money on that case, bro, millions. Not everybody has millions to spend, so majority of the time, like let's say Shotty's situation, I don't know his money situation, but he took a plea deal, but he didn't tell, like he didn't snitch or anything. He got 15 years. If you go to trial for it and you lose, like I just said, they'll give you a heavier sentence. And let's say you have the money, but you only have enough to beat that case. You just lost all your money, and it's a possibility you still go to jail. And they're coming prepared, like they said, stacks and stacks of evidence. That's wild, bro. It's a bad John. Bad John.
Now, there's been a lot of talk online recently with people saying that Casanova's interview with DJ Vlad helped get him indicted. Now, how realistic is this? Could an interview on a social media platform really have led to an indictment?
I won't say that an interview led to an indictment, but I can tell you that an interview or social media will contribute to getting you indicted. In Casanova's indictment, it says members of the enterprise promoted and celebrated in music and on social media acts involving violence, the use of firearms, and narcotics distribution. So the federal government looks at your social media. What you post will later come back and bite you in the butt. I have had several cases where people post themselves holding a firearm, even though they're a convicted felon. They'll post pictures of money, they'll post pictures of drugs, expensive cars. They use all of that against you. So, yes, social media is one of the main contributing factors, especially today for fraud crimes that they use against defendants in federal cases.
Now, as of lately in New York City, the federal government has been really cracking down. There's been several raids and several indictments of different organizations in the New York City area. The reason I'm asking you this question is this case similar to the Treyway case? Does it have any similarities or parallels?
I think is very similar to the Treyway case. That charge or that indictment also included racketeering or RICO charges, weapons possession, conspiracy to commit murder, narcotics possession. So yes, I think that this current case with Cass is very similar to the Treyway case. I see it following the same path to a certain extent as far as the way that they're going to try to prosecute it.
Now, Mr. Hill, I just asked you about the parallels and similarities of the Treyway case and the Gorilla Stone Nation case. Now, speaking of the Treyway case, the rapper Jim Jones and Mel Murder, they were heard on a wiretap. Mel Murder was arrested and named on the indictment. Jim Jones was never arrested or named on the indictment. I don't want to specifically talk about Jim Jones. From your experience, can someone provide information or cooperate and assist the feds with the case and not be outed as an informant?
I want to make clear in the way that the question is phrased that I am not talking about Jim Jones. I have no clue as to anything regarding that nature. In a general sense, however, yes, a person can cooperate with the government without being named in an indictment or without being disclosed to the other side. So, yes, that can happen, and yes, that does happen all the time.
Can you tell the people what is a Rule 35 and a 5K1, and in what situations do they apply?
A Rule 35 is used for people who are sitting in prison and giving information to the government about other individuals who are facing trial. That's the traditional way that a Rule 35 is used. A 5K1 is used and disclosed by the government at the time that a defendant is being sentenced to let the judge know that a defendant cooperated with the government and had useful information that usually led to the prosecution of other individuals or caused people who have already been prosecuted to plead guilty.
I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Joe B for connecting us. Coming from...
Bro, that's crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much the video. Just want to give y'all a little reaction. Like I said, if y'all can please like, comment, comment, give me ideas what you guys want to see. It's the top of the year, so it's a little bit slower. Like there's not as much content coming out. Everybody's exhausted from doing the what they call it, vlogmas. So it's not much content coming out. So let me be there for y'all, man. Let me be for the people. I got a couple things I'm going to react to. I'm going to be looking on a daily basis. But if y'all got any ideas or anything I want to see, just let me know. Like I said, my name's Kev. I'm probably going to, let's do Kev J Reacts, Kev J Reactions, and let's just go from there. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.